Most controversial rap albums ever. Number 14. Blizzard of Oz, 1980. Most of us know about all of the bad behavior Ozzy Osbourne has gotten himself into over the years. The man was already a rock icon from his days fronting Black Sabbath. But metal fans were beyond anxious about Oz's first solo album. Blizzard of Oz didn't disappoint musically, but it also arrived with its fair share of controversy, thanks to one particular track. A young man named John McCollum tragically ended his life in 1984 allegedly after listening to the song. According to Osbourne, the lyrics were actually about alcoholism. McCollum's parents sued the vocalist and his record label for the song's apparent influence on their son, but the case was dismissed due to Ozzy's First Amendment right to free speech. Number 13. De Mysterious Don Sathanas, 1994. When does extreme metal become too extreme? This question, and more, were asked by fans, bands, and media outlets alike when Norwegian black metal stormed out of the underground during the early 90s. The genre saw real-life murder and arson committed by its participants, including those of this entry's band, Mayhem. There were infamous internal conflicts within Mayhem, which led to its founder, Øystein Euronymous Arseth, being killed by his bassist, Vard Vikernes. De Mysterious Don Sathanas is certainly a musical cornerstone for the genre, but a request by Arseth's parents for Mayhem's new bassist, Necrobutcher, to remove Vikernes' bass tracks was ignored, and the album remains a chilling reminder of these events. Number 12. Frankenchris, 1984. We've mentioned our criteria for albums being censored for controversial album art, but what about a controversial insert? The political punk rock legends Dead Kennedys, and specifically frontman Jello Biafra, were the victims of censorship over the inclusion of a poster featuring a work by surrealist art icon H.R. Giger. A poster reproduction of Landscape XX was deemed obscene, and Biafra was charged with distributing harmful matter to minors. Biafra discussed the ordeal on his spoken word album, High Priest of Harmful Matter, particularly how police raided his apartment and the financial strain it brought upon the band's record label. Number 11. Like a Virgin, 1984. There has been a bevy of influential artists out there, but very few can claim to have single-handedly steered the fashion sense of teenage girls around the world. Madonna did just that in the wake of her sophomore album, Like a Virgin, in 1984. The album's major singles, which included Material Girl, Dress You Up, and the title track, were all smash hits, but didn't land without some controversy thanks to Madonna's racy image and sexualized live performances. News outlets across the globe all clamored for footage of the Material Girl writhing on stage, decked out in lace and embarking upon her career as a certified pop sensation. She wouldn't stop there, of course, continually courting controversies with follow-ups like A Prayer and Erotica. Number 10. As Nasty as They Wanna Be, 1989. We've discussed a lot of hard rock and heavy metal throughout this list, but hip-hop has also seen its fair share of run-ins with the censors. Case in point, 2 Live Crew, who seem to love inciting anger with their 1989 LP, As Nasty as They Wanna Be. It pulled no punches with its references to sexuality, especially in its breakthrough hit, Me So Horny. Is the album crass? Sure, but 2 Live Crew deserved to sing their songs the way they wanted to sing them, and they found roadblocks in their way at nearly every turn. The album was even labeled legally obscene by a Florida judge, and 3 members of the band would later be arrested just for performing a show. Number 9. Stained Class, 1978. The story behind Judas Priest's 4th album, Stained Class, is one mired in controversy, thanks to a lawsuit brought against the band by the families of 2 teenagers who decided to take their own lives, allegedly after listening to Better By You, Better Than Me. The boys' families claimed that the band inserted subliminal messages that said "do it" behind frontman Rob Halford's vocal in the song, even though the song was a cover of the band's Spooky Tooth, rather than a Judas Priest original. Still, the trial remains a tragic and truly controversial moment in hard rock history. Number 8. Tome of the Mutilated, 1992. Woo, where do we start? Maybe with the graphic, oft-censored cover art displaying 2 rotting corpses engaging in a sex act? Or maybe the fact that Cannibal Corpse was forbidden from performing tracks from their first 3 albums in countries like Germany? Then, of course, there's the band's appearance in Ace Ventura, Pet Detective. Wait, what? Jim Carrey's death metal fixation aside, the controversy behind Cannibal Corpse's third studio album continues to this day. And if you don't believe us, just take a look at the track listing. Number 7. The Marshall Mathers LP 2000. By the turn of the new millennium, Eminem was no stranger to controversy, thanks to the unflinching realism presented on the Slim Shady LP in 1999. That backlash only increased when Eminem released the substantially darker and even more personal The Marshall Mathers LP, an album chock full of adult themes and extreme lyrical barbs that made its predecessor sound positively lightweight, an easy target for conservative politicians and parents alike. The Marshall Mathers LP shook up the entertainment world and essentially changed music censorship forever. Number 6. Fear of a Black Planet, 1990. Hip-hop legends Public Enemy have always been considered some of the genre's most intelligent and politically active artists. But it was this very socially aware release that also made them targets of controversy. Classics like 911 is a Joke, Burn Hollywood Burn, and Fight the Power were all huge hits. But the band's profile hit hard times when founding member Professor Griff began spouting anti-Semitic rhetoric during interviews. Griff's comments would lead to his eventual dismissal from the group, although Public Enemy's stance as one of hip-hop's elder statesmen would remain secure. Number 5. Never Mind the Bollocks. Here's the Sex Pistols, 1977. Seeing Johnny Rotten today, it might be hard to imagine the powdercade of fury unleashed by the Sex Pistols back in 1977. But at one point it seemed as if everyone was pissed at these British punks. Whether it was the band's entourage habitually sporting Nazi regalia or the fact that God Save the Queen aimed squarely at England's Elizabeth II, the Pistols were never far from public ire. Frontman Johnny Rotten and crew would also be in a memorably tense television debut, where the band cussed out their host on live TV before eventually imploding in a blaze of self-destructive glory so fitting to their punk rock roots. Number 4. Mechanical Animals, 1998. There have been few hard rock and heavy metal artists that captured the public spotlight quite like Marilyn Manson. Albums like Portrait of an American Family and Antichrist Superstar had already put the band in cultural crosshairs, so when it came time to release Mechanical Animals, detractors were on high alert. The studio effort's artwork is striking in and of itself, but when people started to make connections between the album and the tragic events at Columbine in 1999, the band came under fire. It wasn't the first controversy Manson faced, and it certainly would not be the last, as he turned himself into police for 2 counts of assault in 2021. Number 3. Body Count, 1992. In the early 90s, it was hard not to be aware of the controversy surrounding Body Count. The album raised ire and criticism almost immediately due to its aggressive lyrical content, but it was the Body Count's closing track that caused the biggest media sensation. The song's confrontational stance on police violence was directly challenged in the media by actor and NRA spokesman Charlton Heston, with many others joining in the call for the album's censorship. Body Count's label would eventually reissue the album without the offending track, ironically replacing it with Freedom of Speech, a collaboration between Ice-T and Jello Biafra. Number 2. Rage Against the Machine, 1991. The musical landscape of 1991 was a period of transition for hard rock and heavy metal, and this band stood out as representative of change throughout the decade. Rage Against the Machine stood in strict defiance to both the hair metal excesses of the 1980s as well as the emerging grunge movement of the time, and were steeped in political fire and fury. This sentiment, born from the protests of the 1960s and 70s, would serve as a source of controversy for the rap/metal band, as frontman Zach De La Rocha's pointed commentaries about world injustice and corruption would go on to define the band's enduring creative legacy. Number 1. Straight Outta Compton, 1988. The impact of NWA is impossible to overstate. The hip-hop landscape was very much a different place in 1988 before the group made their debut with Straight Outta Compton. The group was one of the progenitors of the gangster rap genre and gained sufficient controversy over the album's raw and frank lyrical content, which stood in strict contrast to the dance and partied vibe associated with many rap acts of the time. Instead, Straight Outta Compton described the hard and violent life surrounded by drugs, gangs, and police misbehavior, laying the groundwork for countless hip-hop acts in its wake. Do you like it? Kindly give your valuable response in our comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel for more interesting and informative videos.